Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Shrute Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badharayanam Sutrabhashya Kritav Vande Bhagavantav Punah Punah. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. Hari Om. So far we have seen about the preciousness of the human life and the goal of human life is to attain liberation. That liberation is achieved only through the realization of ourself to be the infinite self. Only that knowledge can lead us to liberation and nothing else. Various other sadhanas are there like snana, dana, tapas, ityadi. Taking dip in the holy waters, giving charity, observing lot of vows, etc. They're all there. They can all purify our mind, but does not give liberation directly. And the reason for that is our samsara, our problems, our sorrows, all that is caused by ignorance and delusion born out of that ignorance. Therefore, we have to root out that root cause of ignorance, and that can be done only through knowledge. Knowledge alone is the antidote for that, not any other thing. Then now I want to gain this knowledge. How do I go about doing that? So we started talking about the necessary qualifications that would make me fit to gain this knowledge. What are they? And we talk about two types of qualifications. One type is the general qualification. A few things are there, general qualifications are there that everyone on this path must have. Not only for this, for any gain of knowledge. And then there are very specific qualifications for this spiritual knowledge. Last class we saw what the general qualifications are. Medhavi Purusho Vidwan Uhapoha Adhikarya Atma Vidyayam Ukta Lakshana Lakshitah. So that person must be a Vidwan. Vidwan meaning intelligent. Must have general knowledge. Must be a Medhavi. Must have the ability to retain whatever he is learning, the retention power, memory. Must have that. Uhapoha Vichakshanaha. Have the ability to evaluate things, the pros and cons. See the flaws in arguments that are put forth and choose what is the correct, applicable, relevant arguments and disregard the others. Discard the fallacious logic. He should have such abilities. Then after those general qualifications, we come to specific qualifications, which we saw in verse 17. Vivekinaha viraktasya shamadi gunashalinaha mumukshorevahi brahma jignasa yogyata mata. So these specific qualifications were enumerated in that verse 17. Viveka, discrimination. Vairagya, dispassion, detachment. Shamadhi, sampatti, a set of values that begins with shama. And mumukshutvam. Mumukshutvam, an intense desire for liberation. If you have these qualifications, then you are fit to get that knowledge, to know Brahman. Of course, you don't need to have 100% of all these to start the study. To begin the study, you don't need 100%. At the end of the study, you must have, not at the beginning. Yeah. If you have to have this in full measure to begin with, nobody can get even started. Not to worry. If you have some amount of this, then as you go through the study, all this will improve. You will get enriched in these qualifications also. So don't give me an excuse, I don't have this in full measure, so I won't come to your classes. No, don't do that. The very fact that you are all here, that is evidence enough that you have what is necessary to get started. So we have seen up to this so far. So we continue today with verse 18. Sadhananyatra chatvari katitani manishibihi yeshu satveva sannishta yad abhavena siddhyati sadhananyatra chatvari katitani manishibihi yeshu satsveva sannishta yad abhavena siddhyati. This is a very important verse, a very, very important verse. In the 16th verse, Bhashyakara said, Ukta Lakshana Lakshitah. We have to indicate some more qualifications. What are they? Atra, here. Here in this spiritual pursuit. In this pursuit, Chatvari Sadhanani Katitani, fourfold qualifications. Chatvari, fourfold. Fourfold qualifications are mentioned. In addition to the general qualifications that were mentioned earlier. As I had mentioned, Vidvat, reasoning power, intelligence, Medha, memory power, Uha, Poha, Vichakshana, discerning power. So, in addition to that, 4 specific qualifications are added. This is done by Manishivihi, by the Vedic Rishis, or the Vedas themselves. They are mentioned in Upanishads. They are not mentioned like 1, 2, 3, 4, not like that, but in different places they are mentioned. And what Shankaracharya has done for us, he has culled those and he is presenting it to us. Even Tattva Bodha, we started with that. So we do find these in the Upanishad, but not necessarily in this nice way, beautifully listed and discussed. So he says, Yeshu Satsu Eva, in their presence alone. Satsu, in their presence. Sannishta, Samyak Nishta, firm abidance. Firm abidance in the truth can take place. If these qualifications are there, this knowledge can take place, and then also abidance in that knowledge. We have seen Bhava Shunya Sat, Bhava Sustitihi. In Upateshasara we saw that Sustitihi is Nishtha, abidance, we get established. Now Sannishta means Brahmanishta. San, because of Sandhi, it is Satnishta. Sat is Brahman. So abidance in that Brahman. Abidance in Brahman means Jnana Nishta, the knowledge only. Atma Nishta. Sat means Brahman, Nishta means abidance. So Brahman should be here in this context taken to be Brahma Jnanam. Abiding in Brahman, we will see all those details later, but I would like for you to note that abiding in Brahman is not a physical action. We will see later on, the whole teaching is you are Brahman. So where is the question of you abiding in Brahman? You are that already. Therefore, abiding in Brahman should be interpreted as abiding in Brahma Jnanam. The fact is, the truth is you are Brahman, but you don't know. So you need to get that knowledge. So abiding in Brahman means abiding in that knowledge. So that Brahma Jnanam is nothing but knowing that Aham Brahma Asmi, knowing that I am Brahman. What is meant by abiding in Brahma Jnana? Is jnanam something and you go gradually to it and sit on that? Sit on Brahma Jnanam or sit in Brahma Jnanam, like sitting on a chair, sitting in a room. Is it like that? No, obviously not. Abiding in Brahma Jnanam is assimilating, internalizing that knowledge to such an extent it transforms you. A person who is bound is What do you mean by freedom? Again, it is not a physical freedom. Physically, we may be bound by so many external factors. That is possible, but that is not what we are talking about. Mentally also, we have worries are there, anxieties are there, tension, dependence. Freedom from all the restraining ways of thinking and responding. Therefore, Sannishtha can be defined as moksha or freedom. Abidance in Brahman, abidance in Brahma Jnanam, that itself can be defined as moksha, liberation. Thus, yeshu satsu eva means in the presence of these four qualifications alone, freedom is possible. Without these four qualifications, any amount of learning will not give freedom. Then what will happen? If these four qualifications are not there, any intelligent person will grasp the teaching. The general qualification, Vidwan, we said, is intelligent, is sharp, he can grasp. He will understand what it is. But this abidance will not be there. It's like a professor who has a doctorate in Vedanta philosophy. He did advanced studies. He even did research and he got a PhD in Vedanta. So naturally, he has a very good understanding of what Vedanta is, what Brahman is, what the Upanishads say that Brahman is, all that he knows. And he can also very clearly present all that. Beautifully talk about what is Shankaracharya's philosophy. And the other acharyas, what do they say? How do they compare? How do they contrast? All that he can beautifully discuss. And then whatever he said, Annamaya, Pranamaya. We'll talk about all this, by the way. Okay, if you are not already familiar with that, don't you worry. I'm just throwing some names, but these are the topics that are discussed, and this professor can talk about all that. Brahman alone is there, he can declare. Brahman and Atma both are one. The individual self is the universal self. All that he can talk about, explain also. But if these special qualifications are not there, he will still be a samsari. Okay? Instead of making money on Wall Street, he is making money teaching people about Vedanta. That's all. That's the only difference. Okay? So, intellectual qualifications can make you a scholarly person, whereas sadhana chatushtaya sampatti, these fourfold qualification, this wealth of fourfold qualifications will make him a liberated person. So the sadhana chatushtaya sampatti is important. So as we begin this study, Bhashyakara emphasizes this. Keep this in mind and keep working at it. We need to keep on enhancing those. So that is why he is placing so much importance in this. Therefore, he says, Yeshu satsu eva, Yeshu refers to this sadhana chatushraya sampatti. If these four qualifications are there, if they are there, satsu eva sannishtha. That abidance in that knowledge can take place. If it is not there, you will not have this abidance. Then alone that Brahmanistha will be there. And yad abhave, if it is not there, in its absence, without sadhana chatushtaya sampatti, na siddhyati. Liberation will not happen. Moksha cannot be attained. Only scholarship you will get, never moksha. Liberation will be impossible. Therefore, he stresses this importance, the importance of sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. So this method is called Anvaya Vyatireka. If you can remember this term, Anvaya Vyatireka, it will come many times. Anvaya means presence, Vyatireka means absence. So you look for certain things which are present, and then related to that something else is present. If it is absent, the other thing is absent. Like that, to look for relationships like this. This kind of a logic is quite often employed. So if you have these qualifications, liberation is possible. If you don't have this, liberation is not possible. That way. Therefore, these are not optional. These are prerequisites. You need to have it to begin with. Therefore, do not take it as optional, do not take it lightly. You have to give utmost importance to this. The sannyasa ashrama, optional. You don't have to become a sannyasi to get liberated. All right? We won't stress. You can be a grihastha, can be a brahmachari. You don't have to take to sannyasa. No, not necessary. Sannyasa ashrama has certain advantages, no doubt. It has advantages. It also has some disadvantages. Same case with grihastha ashrama. Bhagavan Sri Krishna has also said in the Gita, Yat sankyai prapyate sthanam tad yogairapi gamyate. What a sannyasi can know and then be free, a grihastha can also know and be free. So Bhagavan gave us a choice. Those are lifestyles. You can choose one ashrama or the other. But when we come to sadhana chatushtaya sampatti, Veda very clearly says, it doesn't give us a choice. So the student should, you all should, this day onward, you all have it, as I said, otherwise we won't be in this class week after week. There's no question about it. It is there. We have to constantly strive to enhance it. Constant alertness. Constantly watching whether I am a sadhana chatushraya sampanna, whether I am endowed with. Whenever there is a gap, we need to fill it. So this is the advice to the student. Every day you ask this question, am I a Viveki? What does my Viveka meter read today? We are measuring 2-3 times, we prick ourselves. What is my sugar level? Is it under control? 2 times breakfast, then before eating, after eating. Every 3 months we run to the doctor. But do we ask ourselves, do I have Viveka? Do I have Vairagya? That is what. Evaluate yourself every day. What did I do today indiscriminately, where there was a lapse in my discrimination? Where did I soft pedal my Vairagya today? Constantly be aware. Very important. And how about my mumukshutvam? Am I a mumukshu? Do I have that intense desire? Have I done a good introspection of my life? Have I examined my life? Okay? And develop that kind of intensity to get out of this life's problems once and for all. So we have to do all that. So having mentioned these 4 qualifications, now Bhashyakara will speak about each one of them. Each one of them will be taken and discussed in detail from the 19th verse. So let us read verse 19. Adau nitya nitya vastu, adau nitya nitya vastu, viveka pariganyate, viveka pariganyate, iha mutra pala bhoga, iha mutra pala bhoga, viragastadanantaram, viragastadanantaram, shamadhi shatka sampattihi, shamadhi shatka sampattihi, mumukshutvam iti sputam, mumukshutvam iti sputam. Adau nitya nitya vastu viveka pariganyate, iha mutra phala bhoga viragastadanantaram, shamadhi shatka sampattihi, mumukshutvam iti sputam. So Shankaracharya says here, Adau, to begin with, first, Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha. In the 17th verse, if you recall, he just said Viveka, discrimination. That's all he said. Once you say discrimination, the question becomes discrimination of what and what? Is it the discrimination of real diamond from a fake diamond? That is also discrimination. The ability to tell one from the other. And these days, this word discrimination has such a negative connotation. Anytime we talk about discrimination, one caste or the other, caste discrimination, gender discrimination, and then all kinds of these things. Big problem. Are we talking about that? No, we are not talking about things like that. Okay? It is Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha. Sorting out, separating, distinguishing, discriminating between what is Nityam. Nityam, what is eternal, permanent. and separating it from what is anityam, what is ephemeral, what is impermanent, that which is temporary. That is pariganyate, that is counted adav first. So beginning, we start counting 1, 2, 3, 4. The first one we begin with Viveka, that is separating between Nitya Vastu and Anitya Vastu. So to have this ability is the primary qualifications. Number 1. You naturally see that even this text is called Viveka Chudamani. That Viveka is there in the title of this text itself. So that is how important it is. So Adav Vivekaha. Discrimination is the very foundation of everything. And this discrimination, this ability to separate, sort out, we are talking about the ability to separate Nitya Anitya Vastu. Nityam, the permanent, and Anityam, the impermanent. That is the ability we want. And then, once we know what is permanent and what is impermanent, then you will conclude very easily that holding on to the permanent alone will give you security. The real security is only in hanging on to Nityam, the permanent. So the very simple thing is to grab what is permanent, stick with it. Never hold on to something that is not permanent. And if you hold on to something that is like that, some Anitya Vastu, you better be ready for tragedy in your life. That's what will happen. It's so very obvious. Therefore, Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha is the first step. Then the second stage is Iha Amutra Phala Bhoga Viragaha. Viragaha, dispassion. Dispassion, detachment. Detachment. From what? From all sensory pleasures, all contact born pleasures, all material dependencies are called bhoga, enjoyment. These pleasures are attained. They are all in the form of karma phalam. As a result of punya. Any pleasure you get, especially if you have not worked for it, that is because of purva punya. Karma coming through you. By saying karma phalam, the scriptures indicate yat yat karma phalam tat tat anityam. Whatever is the result of action, that is impermanent. Whatever is the result of an action, its nature is, it is ephemeral. So any pleasure, anything that you enjoy, that you get, that is a result of some good action, some punya karma you have done. That punya is giving you that good result that you are enjoying. And these pleasures, which are the karma phalam acquired, iha amutra. Iha, here in this world. or amutra, hereafter, other worlds also, such as Svargaloka. Possible. Simply put, the earthly pleasures or the heavenly pleasures, all of them are born out of punyam only. And because they are all karma phala, they are anityam. Because karma itself you are doing with finite things. How can, when you do action with something finite, how can the result be infinite? All that enjoyment will be finite. So when you start thinking in this way, that seeker must have this kind of viraga, detachment to all these pleasures. We don't say hatred. Understand this point very clearly. Because hatred is as much is just the negative side of attachment, of something that you like. So attachment to the pleasures and hatred for something. So hatred is just the flip side of it. So we don't say you don't have to hate. You either renounce the enjoyment or enjoy it with proper preparation to lose it. Let the mind be prepared to lose. That is fine. If it is there, wonderful. If it is not there, doesn't bother me. Like that. Such a mind is called a mature mind. That is called dispassion, vairagya. This is tad anantaram. This comes after viveka. Therefore, vairagyam comes after viveka. It's a consequence of viveka. Viveka phalam is vairagyam. And in some other text, it may be stated differently. Quite often, viveka is put forth first and then vairagya. And those of you who studied aparoksha anubhuti with me a few months back, you will recall he put vairagya first. So somebody who has examined life, has gone through this, not satisfied with what he has gotten, has already developed a vairagya. And therefore, he has very clearly understood. So viveka comes after vairagya. Either way. But quite often, viveka is put first and vairagya next. Then the third one, shamadi shatka sampattihi. Shatka, sixfold qualification. This is called here wealth, sampatti, sixfold wealth. Why is it called wealth? Through the worldly wealth, you can acquire worldly pleasures. Through this inner wealth, you can attain moksha. You can get spiritual results, the joy of liberation. For material enjoyment, you need material wealth. For spiritual joy, you require spiritual wealth. And that is called here Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti. Only this currency will work in the spiritual field. Okay? Just like when you go to a foreign country, you need to exchange into the local currency. If you're coming from the US, you need to convert your dollars into rupees to come to India. So if you go to Europe, you need to have euros, like that. So in the field of spirituality, the only currency is Shamadi Shatka Sampatti. Shama Adi starts with Shama. Shama means mind control, thought discipline. So by saying Adi, Shama, Adi, Adi indicates that there are other disciplines. There are a few more. Since we said they are 6 in number, so that Adi should cover 5 more. Totally 6 disciplines. And Bhashyakara will explain each one of them. So this is the it's a set of 6 disciplines. Then the 4th qualification is mumukshutvam. While there is dispassion towards anitya vastu, there is equally an increasing passion for nitya vastu. Therefore, we do not lose that passion for the nitya vastu. We still have the passion, but only it is turned away from anitya vastu, and then the intensity toward nitya vastu. That is called mumukshutva. So thus these are iti sputam, very clearly said in the Vedanta Shastra. Continuing, verse 20. Brahma satyam jagan mitya, Brahma satyam jagan mitya, ityevam rupo vinishchayah, ityevam rupo vinishchayah, soyam nitya nitya vastu, soyam nitya nitya vastu, vivekas samudahritah, vivekas samudahritah. Brahma satyam jagan mitya, ityevam rupo vinishchayah, soyam nitya nitya vastu, vivekas samudahritah. So now comes further elaboration of the 4 qualifications. First he said Vivekaha, then he gave the definition. The definition was Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekaha. Now he is going to elaborate on what is Nityam, what is Anityam. So he says, Brahma Satyam. Brahman is the reality. And Jagan Mithya, Jagat Mithya. The world is only an appearance. It's unreal. So Jagan Mithya means Jagat Anityam. The whole creation is impermanent. Whether it is a thing or a being or a situation, they are all anityam, impermanent. In the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, Abrahma bhuvana loka hai punaravartina hai. He talks about the duration of Brahmaji's life. Brahmaji's life spans 2000 Chatur Yugas. Not one yuga, 4 yugas put together is one Chatur Yuga. Like that, 2000 Chatur Yugas is one calendar day for Brahmaji. Like that, he has 365 days in 1 year. And like that, Brahmaji's tenure is 100 years. Can you imagine that length? Bhagavan says that even Brahmaji has to vacate that seat one day. It may be very long, but still it ends. Therefore, even up to Brahmaloka, everything is anityam. You can do lot of karma upasana. You can qualify to become Brahmaji also. Possible. You become Brahmaji and you live for 2000 Chatur Yugas. But after, you are still term limited. Okay. So, everything including Brahmaji's position, iti evam rupaha vinishchayah. This must clearly be understood. Everything in this creation is impermanent only. It should be a dhrida jnanam, a firm knowledge, firm knowledge. How do you get that dhrida jnanam? We get this knowledge through three methods. Pratyaksha pramanena, anumana pramanena, shastra pramanena. Pratyaksha pramana, direct perception. That tells me everything around me is perishing only. We see that happening all the time. Do you have any doubts? Just take the paper and read the obituary column. Daily we read, we can. People read it thinking, I will keep on reading it. That is what they think. We forget that one day we will be in that list and somebody else will be reading it. The only way that nobody will read it is if it doesn't make it to the paper. So many Alexanders have appeared and disappeared. So many Hitlers have appeared, disappeared. Shankaracharyas also have appeared and disappeared. We all thought without certain people the world will not go on. And we have people claiming without me, nothing will happen. Every head of the household thinks and acts that way. What we find is, they all have disappeared and the world still goes on. Science tells us one day the sun will also disappear. So very clearly, Pratyaksha Pramana teaches us that everything is impermanent. Second method to know this is Anumanam, inference. I can very easily infer that all Swargaloka pleasures are finite. How? By knowing that karma is finite and therefore whatever karma phalam will be finite. I just mentioned earlier today also. So Swargaloka is anitya. We can very easily infer. I can infer the ephemeral nature of heaven. The saving grace is the ephemeral nature of hell also. So we don't worry whether it is heaven or hell. If we go to hell also, we suffer. We will get washed up and come back clean. So we are not worried about that. But that doesn't mean you should do all bad things and go see how it is in hell. I'm not saying that. Okay. So all lokas, the 14 lokas are impermanent. That's the point. Finally, for example, how do we know our own death? Not by pratyaksha. You may see your death is imminent, but the actual death you cannot directly perceive. But we have seen. Some of us, we have seen our parents pass away, grandparents, certainly great grandparents. Therefore, Anumana is also possible. So we can infer that we will die because we have seen all other people die. Of course, we have the Shastra Pramana. Our Shastras very clearly make this point. Said in the Bhagavad Gita, Jatasya hidruvo mrityuhu, 2nd chapter, 27th verse. What is born will die. So we all have a date of birth, a date of death also. So thus through Pratyaksha, Anumana, Shastra, this Jagat Anityam Sunischaya, very clear that the world is impermanent. Then naturally there is a curiosity. If everything is Anityam, is there something eternal? Yes, there is something. But unfortunately that eternal entity is not available for perception. Science is not able to find that out and say what is eternal. In fact, you probe more and more into creation, more and more confusing it becomes. So what is the basic thing of creation? What is the truth of this universe? What is the permanent essence of this world? We don't know that by Pratyaksha or Anumana. Therefore, Shastra comes and tells there is something eternal. We have not seen that, we cannot see also. And Shastram introduces a new word, and that is called Brahma. If you go to the Puranas, they call it God or Bhagavan. If you come to Vedanta, the same Bhagavan is called Brahma. The nice thing about using the word Bhagavan is we can imagine a form and you can say, oh Bhagavan, I do not want the world, I want you only. You can talk like that. Brahman, if you say, does not have a form, it does not have a color, doesn't have a smell, no taste, nothing. Praying becomes difficult. That's the only difference. Ultimately, Bhagavan of the religion and Brahman of philosophy both refer to one and the same thing, Nitya Vastu. Therefore, if you want security, hold on to Bhagavan, hold on to Brahman. This is the indirect method. So, Brahma Satyam. Satyam means Nityam. Therefore, Brahma Nityam Jagan Mitya iti evam Rupo Vinishchaya. This is the definite knowledge, firm understanding. Understanding of this nature that Brahman alone is the reality, everything else is only an appearance. We have seen using the faculty of discrimination for so many things, we use that. The teacher says the glory of this faculty is when you are able to determine the reality of this world. The Saha Satyam, this is known. Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekacu, this person has diagnosed the difference between the eternal and the ephemeral. This is Samudahritaha. This is said in the scriptures. By saying Samudahritaha, what Shankaracharya says is that this is not my opinion. I don't want to take any credit. All this is already said. Brahma Sutra, Upanishads, such Shastras, they very clearly talk about this. So with this, the first qualification, Viveka, is over. That Viveka, having known what is real and what is unreal, one must pursue the real and withdraw from the pursuit of unreal. That ability to do that, that is the second, and we will see that in the next class. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasheshyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.